Okay, so this is going to be a quick recording on how to pull the Spreetail Analytics project out of the source repository and get it up and running on Mac. So the first thing you want to do, I'm going to load GitHub here. I'm going to go ahead and clone this repo. So blah, 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 Spreetail Analytics, it's right there. Clone it. I'm just going to throw it on my desktop. You obviously can put it wherever you normally would put your stuff. So I've got the repo cloned. I'm good to go. So I'm going to go into the terminal. Change directory to the Spreetail Analytics, so the root directory. So if I take a look at that, I'm in the directory that has the Spreetail Analytics SLN file, which on Mac we're not going to do anything with because that's a Visual Studio thing, source and test. So I can open that up in Visual Studio Code. Obviously that's where you're going to work with it. But for the time being, I don't need anything with Visual Studio Code because I'm just going to get this up and running and working for as an example of how to get this thing running. So there's my controller. Great. Okay, so to get it up and running, I need to first make sure that I'm running the right version of .NET Core. So I'm going to check that with dnvm list. So I'm going to look and see what version I have. I only have one. You might have multiple versions. The key here is you need to be running the Core CLR, 64-bit, maybe, maybe not. I think that's all there is. And then I'm running RC1 Update 1. So if yours doesn't match this, if that's not your default, your currently used DNX core, you probably need to go back and fix that and reinstall it. Assuming that that's the case, I'm going to restore all of the dependencies for all the projects by running dnu restore. And so what that's going to do is it's going to look at all the project JSONs and all of the various subdirectories and projects and restore all the dependencies that are needed for each. It's going to build out the code for the internal dependencies, things like repositories and stuff, and then it's going to download from NuGet all of the external dependencies. So once I've done that, I've got my project ready to, or my solution ready to go. I'm going to go into the database project and I'm going to build the database because coming right out of GitHub, there is no database. Before I do that, I need to actually create the app data directory. So I'm going to move to source, the clients folder, and then the analytics web project. So make sure I'm in the right place. Do LH. So yeah, I'm in the right place. Controllers, all that stuff's there. I'm going to make directory, mkdir, app, capital A, underscore, data, capital D, app data. That's the directory where my database is going to go. Once I've made that, I'm going to backtrack up to the source directory and then back down into utilities and analytics database. So remember, we talked about this in class today. This is the analytics project. So from here, I don't need to do anything because I've already got my migrations. I'm going to run the DNX entity framework command, database, update. And what that's going to do is that's going to apply the migrations to the database. There is no database, so it's going to create that database and apply the single migration. So now that I've done that, it worked right. Applying migration says done. I'm going to jump back up to the source and then down into the clients again and analytics web. So now I'm back in the analytics web project. Let's check out my app data directory. Boom, there's the database. We're all good to go. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to run this project. So I'm going to type DNX web. I'm going to run this again from the analytics folder. So the analytics project folder. When you run these DNX commands, you have to be in the project folder where the command exists. So you can't run these commands from the solution folder or with the root of the source folder and the other ones. You got to run these in the projects. So I'll jump back and take a look at this. pwd. You should know your Unix commands if you don't. So that's where I am. I'm in my desktop, Spreetail Analytics, source, clients, analytics web. So DNX web is the command. So I run that. It's going to start up the web server. Everything's great. Hosting environment is developed, which is what I want. And then I've got localhost 5000. So actually, I'm going to note something here, and this may be a problem for some of the people. Mine says hosting environment development. So I'm not sure what yours says. It may say hosting environment production. If it says hosting environment production, that's going to create a problem for you because that's going to expect to use SQL Server and some other stuff that's not configured. You can't get SQL Server on the Mac, so you'd have to be using some other database. You want to make sure that you're running hosting environment develop. So for me, I've set my environment variable in my just by default. So when I run my shell, I'm running bash. So in my bash profile, I've set my environment variable. You can set your environment variable however you want. I would recommend doing it in your bash profile. So if we take a look, here's my bash profile. I've got a bunch of stuff in here. I'm setting my development environment which is ASP.ASP.NET ENV equal to development. So I've put this in my bash profile, which means this it'll be set every time I run my shell. It's a little script, if you don't know anything about bash, it's a little script that runs when you launch the bash shell. Sets all my variables. If I don't want to do that, if I just wanted to say, set this to something different, so let's say export ASP.NET ENV, let's do production. I've changed it to production. Now if I do DNX web, I'm running in production mode and it's not going to work. So boom, there we go. We've got an issue. We've got a null pointer exception. Was trying to run in production and see it says production. So if you're getting an error like this and you're seeing hosting environment production, that's your problem. So what you want to do is you want to come back here. You want to set your environment. So export ASP.NET ENV to development. Boom. DNX web. Run that. We're good to go. It's running. Let's check this real quick. Oh, we don't want to do that. Let's check this real quick. Localhost 5000. There it is. Look at that. I don't have any users in here, so if I try to log in, I'd expect to see, yep, invalid login attempt. So let's register a new user, Ian Cunningham, ian@unl.edu. My password is super, S-E-C-R-R-E-C-T. They don't match. Super secret there. Nope. Oh, are you serious? Oh, really? All right, try this again. There we go. Okay, I'm logged in. Awesome. Created a profile for me. I'm logged in. Let's log off. We'll log back in real quick. Boom, done. So that's how everything, obviously everything works here. That's how you get everything set up. I'm going to kill my server now. I'm going to back out into the root directory, and I'm all done working on this. So I'm going to get rid of it. Done. Okay, so that's basically how you pull the Spreetail Analytics project out of Git and have everything set up and running on Mac.